So definitely some things that you can do ahead of time to avoid getting in that situation.
Yes.
And this, I have to think every long trip that I've had, there's been some point where I do feel a little bit drowsy, a little bit tired. If you're in one of those situations and it's not a good place or time to stop, what should you do? Is there anything you can do when you're in a situation like that?
Well, I'd probably suggest you wait till the next exit, pull over, lock your door, go to an area that's well lit, and take a 20-minute nap. It is okay to drink some caffeinated beverages. About 2 caffeinated beverages can keep you going for about 2 hours, but don't fool yourself to think that you can drive 6, 7 hours by consuming lots of caffeine over and over. It's really not going to work that long term. And those are some of the things that you can do to assist yourself at that moment when that happens.
And before we go to the break, what can people do, or how can people find out more information about drowsy driving right here in the Triangle?
Well, right here in the Triangle, Active Healthcare works very, very hard at making people aware of drowsy driving through the venue of sleep apnea screenings that we have available during sleep apnea support group meetings.
Okay.
And they can go to Active Healthcare's website, which is activehealthcare.com. on the news and education page, and we have listing of all the sleep apnea support group meetings throughout the Triangle in Raleigh, Durham, Cary, and Clayton. Usually almost every month there is something.
Okay, and they can call your main phone number, and that is 919-870-8600. Lisa, we're going to take a break. We'll talk more in just a minute.
Thank you.
Up next, falling asleep at the wheel. We'll hear one man's experience and what he's doing to keep it from happening again. Tar Heel Talk will continue after these messages. Today's show focuses on the issue of drowsy driving. That's drivers nodding off or falling asleep at the wheel. With us again is Lisa Firestein, registered nurse and sleep specialist with Active Healthcare. Also joining us is Evan Mercer. Evan has had experience driving while drowsy and is also a client with Active Healthcare. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. I'm pleased to be here.
Evan, as I just mentioned, you've had some experiences getting sleepy while you're driving. Tell us a little bit about your personal experience.
Well, it started, several years ago, and I just found that I was having excessive sleepiness during the day. I'd take lots of naps, and even though I thought I was sleeping, I would go to bed a reasonable time, and I thought I was getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep at night. I would still get up in the morning, have several cups of coffee and get ready, and then take off to go to my 20-minute drive to work. And I would get out on the road like 5 minutes, and I would start feeling like, whoa, man, I could just go right to sleep.
And so, Lisa, that's a red flag for perhaps a possible medical condition.
Well,
and in Evan's case, it was a medical condition.
Yes, and we screen folks for sleep apnea, and one of the first questions is, do you have something called excessive daytime sleepiness? And that's exactly what he's was exhibiting, was just having a full night's sleep and then not being able to keep awake. And some of the other signs that folks want to look for are, do they snore at night? Has a bed partner told them they stop breathing at night? Do they have a history of high blood pressure? And for a woman, is their neck greater than 16 inches or a man greater than 17 inches? So it would be interesting what symptoms you had.
Well, I don't have a 17-inch neck or 20-inch neck.
Right.
But I was getting tired at work. I work at a computer, and do research. And I would find, like, I would be sleepy driving in the morning, and then I'd get to work, and by the time I get set up and start, by 10:30, I would feel like, oh, I need to take a nap, and then this would happen period through the days. I would feel like I need 2 or 3 naps a day, and I had no idea that I wasn't getting enough sleep. I thought I was maybe depressed or bored or lazy or something like that. But then actually my girlfriend brought home a sleep questionnaire about 6 months ago and said, I think you ought to take this. And so I filled out the questions. It's only about 12 questions. Things like how many naps do you take during the day? How often do you ever get drowsy when you're driving? Do you snore? And I rated very highly on that. And so I went to my doctor and said, hey, I took this sleep questionnaire. It says that I'm really a high risk for sleep apnea, and I'm tired all the time even though I sleep. And so I went to Duke Medical Center and had a sleep study, and sure enough, I was not breathing 40 to 50 times an hour. I stopped breathing, and they set me up with one of these face masks, and it's just been marvelous. Just a real transformation. I can't even. The only trouble is I can't nap now. Sometimes I'd like to take a nap, but I can't even fall asleep during the day hardly.
So you're feeling like a new man.
Exactly. Yes.
And Lisa, tell us about the mask that Evan is referring to.
Well, what Evan's referring to is something called continuous positive airway pressure, known as CPAP. It's the gold standard for treating sleep apnea, and it's essentially a unit that gently pushes air through a hose that's connected to a mask that's on a person's face that goes into their nostrils and keeps their airway open. So at night, when the airway closes, when it's not supposed to close, it now stays open, and so they don't have this constant closing of the airway, which causes many arousals, wakes you up constantly through the night.
Whether you realize it or not.
Absolutely, whether you realize it or not. And it prevents that.
Now, Evan, you were talking about taking that sleep questionnaire, and one of the questions being, how often do you feel drowsy when you're driving? For you, how often were you feeling sleepy when you were driving?
Probably 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 times a week driving to work. Several times, any time that I would have to drive more than about 10 or 15 minutes, I would start feeling like
And I can imagine that that's pretty scary, especially when you're just driving a short distance.
Exactly. It was quite scary. And the other thing is, I had no idea that I was stopping breathing during the night. That, as you mentioned, that was something that I thought I was sleeping through the night.
Right. So it's very important, if people are experiencing excessive drowsiness, that they are screened for a medical condition.
Absolutely, because not only does untreated sleep apnea cause drowsy driving and then the potential outcome of that, I'm sure Evan wasn't quite on his game when you're tired through the day. So you also tend to be more irritable and forgetful during the day, and that's just physical type of symptoms that you have. But the medical risk of this constant stopping to breathe puts somebody at risk for different type of coronary artery disease, strokes, and increase one's risk of diabetes. So it also has dire medical consequences.
Right. So it's very important to listen to your body and seek medical treatment when necessary.